Okay, so I want to talk to you guys a little bit more even about aerobic efficiency and some of the physiology around this stuff. And this is something that Brian and I have been harping on a galactic shit ton lately, and there's good reason for it. And before we kind of get into the weeds on the physiology part, let's just talk about freedivers. Okay, so when somebody is training for freediving and they're doing a static apnea table, whether it's a O2 table or a CO2 table, basically, when they're doing these tables, what they're doing is working up their tolerance for holding their breath. And each alternating table, they have less and less time of breathing normally before they're required to do a breath hold again. And what this does when they do a CO2 table specifically is as the time shrinks, their pH in their body becomes more and more acidic. And the reason that they do that is so they can get used to carbon dioxide being in their system. Because as you dive deeper and deeper, your body is going to start to use up the oxygen that's floating around the system, and you become more and more acidic. Now, normally, for most of us, we give in to sort of the first alarm bell that, hey, carbon dioxide is high. Because if carbon dioxide levels get too high in the body and our pH becomes too acidic, bad things happen, right? Eventually, you can go into coma and die if it gets really, really bad, but most of us are going to breathe before that ever happens. Now, because nature likes to have redundancies built on top of redundancies, we have sensors in our body that tell our brain, hey, there's too much CO2, breathe. Well, what freedivers learn to do through these tables is to become really tolerant of the presence of carbon dioxide in their system, and they learn how to bypass the first, second, third, and in some cases even the fourth, fifth, sixth alarm bells that their bodies send to them that say, hey, you have to breathe now or bad things are going to happen. Now, this is really important. One, because freedivers want to dive deep. And in order to do that, you have to be able to tolerate the discomfort of carbon dioxide in the system and to deal with the alarm bells that come with it. That's one. The second reason, and freedivers know this, is that if you can tolerate the acidic environment, your body will actually more efficiently release oxygen to the tissue. I'll say that again. If you can become more tolerant of the acidic environment of carbon dioxide, then as your body starts to transport the oxygen that's already in the system to the tissues that need it, it will do so more efficiently in the presence of carbon dioxide. This is called the Bohr effect. We talk about this all the time. We have separate videos on the Bohr effect and how it works. What's really important here is that if you can get better at tolerating carbon dioxide, you are by definition more aerobically efficient, period. This is a much simpler and easier endeavor to deal with and transfers across far more platforms than only concerning ourselves with things like VO2 max, which is how much air goes into the system. It is fundamental that we start to look at what happens on the other end of this chain of events and not just how much air we can suck in our face. Not to mention, and if you look into something like the suffocation theory, which is about how these alarm bells for carbon dioxide, because asphyxia is so potent, how these alarm bells for carbon dioxide, what effect they have on our brain and our perception of the environment. Now, to take this back to freedivers, if you've ever been around anybody in the freediving, big wave surfer, waterman community, those folks are calm as a bomb. They have learned how to change their internal narrative, their internal conversation around what it feels like when these levels of carbon dioxide get really high in the system, and they are much better at dealing with it. that has so many implications for making our physiology more efficient, but also in understanding the way that our physiology connects to the way we think. So aerobic efficiency and the role that carbon dioxide plays in the human body physiologically are going to become, we think, fundamental to the way we think, to the way human beings behave, and the way we think about performance and health, especially in the next 5 to 10 years. And if we can get better at doing this and develop strategies for developing it faster, we're all going to be much better off. So a lot to chew on there. If you want to know more about how this physiology and this chemistry fundamentally works, you can look through our YouTube channel. We have a ton of information about it, and we're going to be putting out more and more. So thank you guys for watching. See you next time.